Give me just 1 minute. And here we are. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, UMAC community here on Zoom, following this live on YouTube and or anytime, anywhere in the world. So I'm delighted to welcome you to our third webinar of our UMAC post-lockdown series, where every Friday we discuss one topic of relevance to university museums and collections, as so many of them across the world are reopening to the public or planning to do so. And today's topic is lockdown lessons going digital. And some of the questions we would like to address are, during lockdown, did your university museum, science center, botanic garden remain active online? Was your university museum, science center, botanic garden prepared? What technological, logistical content challenges did going online, going digital pose? What lessons did you learn for the future? I should remind everyone in this session, as well as our listeners on the web, that these are informal webinars, more like a forum, a marketplace, or a cafe than like an academic conference. We believe there are moments for deep scholarship and structured thinking, and moments to be together. And that's now, to be together. Having said this, there are many participants, all eager to speak, and time is limited, so I ask you for succinctness and briefness. We will be moderated by Roland Wittje, Associate Professor of the History of Science and Technology at the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, who comes a long way in the University Museum and Collections movement, and a friend and colleague. Thank you so much, Roland, for accepting this, and over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Marta. Thank you very much for this very nice introduction. Yes, lockdown lessons going digital. Obviously, we are practicing the thing at the same time as we are talking about it. Obviously, this is part of going online. While digital engagement obviously has many opportunities, and we also want to look at this as an opportunity, there are many issues connected to it. And we're also facing many challenges with this. So in the webinar today, we don't only want to talk, obviously we want to know, like, what are you doing? What are your news projects? What are your ideas for going digital? But we would also like to know about your problems, the issues you're having. And I just wanted to bring up a few points before we go into an introduction mode and before we come to our presenters. Obviously, one of the spheres of going digital is engaging with your audience. And the two audiences we usually have as university museums are our students and the general public, right? Like we would say as different groups of audiences. One of the things I just want to mention about the issues and the problems is I'm sitting here in India, I'm teaching in India, and as probably opposed to maybe some other countries in Europe, there's still a very large digital divide. And I feel that very, very strongly with my students as well. We want to engage digitally. We want to use the newest technologies, but a lot of people, and I guess it's a similar problem in many Asian countries, also in African, probably Latin American countries, that there's just not enough bandwidth. People don't really have the kind of instruments to use that. So I'm actually going with my students, I'm actually trying to use a low-tech approach rather than trying to do a high-tech approach. So trying to reach out to people, to communities, with less bandwidth, for example, with only audio files, things like that. So that would be one of the questions. Is there a digital divide, or how's the technology even reaching our audiences? Another issue, there's certainly, which I've also discussed with my own students in this kind of online engagement, is kind of technology versus pedagogy. I'm feeling that there is a very, very strong focus on kind of high-tech solutions, that they use the newest gadgets, but there's very little thinking actually about the pedagogy of engaging people online. So kind of technology versus pedagogy. How do people actually learn online, or how do people actually learn in the digital world? And obviously we are kind of in the middle of this. If we move on from our audiences, obviously we are also engaging with our teams, right? Like we're engaging with our teams online. So how does it work to how does it work as the museum team, for example, to work online? How well is the staff trained? Do we need more kind of training for staff? And also, at least I and a lot of other people are actually afraid of this kind of being pushed more and more into a world of digital engagement. Obviously, we felt this push already before COVID-19, right? Like that, there was a lot of money available for kind of digital initiatives, also engaging public, but a lot of people have already then feared that this is kind of cutting in our world of non-digital engagement, which we find very, very important because we do have the objects, right? Like, and there is a fear of like kind of pushing this more and more into the digital world, that we're losing more ground on the other side. So this is only a few of the things I wanted to mention. I mean, I don't want to sound too negative, but I thought also as we are going along and talking about all the opportunities we are having with digital engagement, I also mentioned, or we discussed that with Marta, we also want to mention a bit the kind of challenges and problems we are seeing with that. Now I would like to go over, I don't want to talk too long. We should have a short round of introduction. Please don't only mention your name and your institution. And if you want to mention some of the kind of initiatives or whatever which you're doing, you can always do that in the chat. So you can give a link also, you can say more about yourself, and you can mention something about your initiatives in the chat. Okay, so maybe we should just start with a round of introduction. How do we do this, Marta? Do we just...
Yeah, just start with the square next to you.
Okay, Florian, please.
Hi, I'm Florian North. I work for the museum at Hong Kong University.
Okay, then Michelle.
There are several Michelles.
Or Michelle Kui.
Hi, I'm Michelle Quack. I'm from Singapore, the NUS Museum, Outreach and Education.
Ah, yeah. And Lenai Nicolaisen.
Hello, I'm from the University of Pretoria Museum, South Africa. I'm a curator there.
Okay, then we have Penny from Greece.
Unmute yourself, Penny.
Unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay. I already did. Okay.
These are the digital challenges.
Yeah. Okay, move on.
Yeah,
Penny, there's a problem. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What we are doing, I was impressed by what you said before about pedagogy. So what we are doing is that we are trying to. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but just introduce yourself. We are not having.
Okay. It's
just
okay.
Say who you are and the institution you are.
Okay. Penny Theologiouti from Science and Technology Museum of the University of Patras in Greece.
Yes, thank you. And then we have Kang Ho.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kang Ho. I'm from National Museum of Singapore, and my colleague Dana will present later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have Danielle Sim. It's one of our presenters.
I am said colleague. Yeah, from National University of Singapore.
Okay. We have Umberto Mossetti.
Yeah. Hi, Umberto Mossetti, curator of the Botanic Garden and Herbarium, University of Bologna, Italy.
Oh, yeah. Then we have Devika Murugaya. Could you unmute yourself?
Hi, I'm from NUS Museum, colleague of Daniel, Michelle, and Kang Ho.
Ah, yeah. Then we have Nuria. We can't hear you. Can you put on your mic?
I'm trying to, but
sorry, sorry. Hello everyone. I am Nuria Artia from Spain. I work at the Cantabria University with the art collection.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mary Ann.
Hello, good afternoon.
Oh, sorry, which Marianne?
Yeah, which Marianne?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. There's several Mariannes.
I mean, the other Marianne can go first.
Yes, hello, I'm Marianne. I'm from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, curator of a culture collection.
Thank you. Then we have Vada Mohammed.
Hi everyone, I'm Warda. I'm from the National Institute of Singapore Museum, and I'm with the outreach team together with Michelle Quack.
Yeah. Then we have Michelle Yeno. Yonho. Yeah.
Hyun.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Hello, Michelle from NYU Shanghai Institute of Contemporary Arts.
Yeah, thank you. And Steph? I can't hear Steph.
Sorry, good morning. Steph Scholten, the Hunterian at the University of Glasgow, UK.
Thank you. Delphine?
Hi, everybody. I'm Delphine Issenman, and I'm a collection manager at the University of Strasbourg, France.
Yeah. And Silke?
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Silke Ackerman. I work at the History of Science Museum in Oxford.
Yeah. And then there's, thank you, Silke, Anna Jones.
Good morning, my name's Anna. I'm from the Museum of English Rural Life, Reading University in the UK.
Oh yeah. Now I'm starting to lose overview. There is Anna Lim. Did we have you yet, Anna Lim?
Yeah, hi, I'm Anna Lim from NUS Museum, Singapore.
Yeah. Thank you. Tan Lai Ki. I don't know.
Hello, hi. Actually, you can call me John.
Yes.
I'm actually from Singapore NUS Museum, so I'm actually more onto the building side, and obviously with the artwork next to me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anna Katarina, thank you.
Hello,
Anna
good
Katarina.
morning. Hello, good morning. I work in Saudi Arabia in the University, King Abdullah University for Science and Technology, and I manage the Museum of Science and Technology in Islam.
Yeah. Thank you. And there is Jenica Gymnast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenica. I'm from National University of Singapore Museum.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Jenica and Ana Isabel Diaz.
Hello, good morning. Sorry for the delay. I come from Spain and I work as curator in traditional and popular art museum from the University, Autonomous University.
Yeah, thank you very much. Claire Robinson.
Hi there, I'm from the Museums of the University of St Andrews.
Sorry, which one?
The Museums of the University of St Andrews in Scotland.
Oh, St Andrews. Yeah. Thank you, Claire. Heidi Wong. I don't think we had you yet. Heidi Wong? I don't know. Ahmad Masadi?
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Ahmad. I'm from the NUS Museum. I'm the head of the NUS Museum. As you can see, almost the entire team of the NUS Museum is here.
Yes, yes, I can see that. And you have a presenter as well. Okay, thank you. And Johanna Wick? Hello? Hello, Johanna Wick?
Some technical difficulties.
Joanna, go ahead.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Oh, cannot hear you. It's not going to be.
Very low voice.
No. We cannot hear you. You have to introduce you in chat because the YouTubers will not listen. Okay.
Yes.
Let's
Okay.
move on.
Yes, Maria de Leon.
Yes, hello.
Yes,
Good
hello.
afternoon. I'm Marian De Leon from the University of the Philippines Museum of Natural History. I am one of the curators. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Who did we miss out? Who?
Just go ahead. Let's go ahead because.
Yeah. Okay,
on.
let's go ahead. If somebody hasn't introduced themselves, just introduce yourself in the chat, please. And I think we should then just move on to Danielle Sim and our first presentation. And Danielle Sim is Assistant Manager of the Museum of the National University of Singapore. And as we have heard, the whole team of the National Museum, the Museum of the National University of Singapore is listening. So please, I think you manage the presentation. And yeah, please, Danielle. Danielle, can you hear me?
Yes, I forgot to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle, and I work in outreach at the NUS Baba House, which is managed by the National University of Singapore. So a little background on what the Baba House is. It is a conserved heritage townhouse that was built in the 1890s that displays Peranakan culture. So Peranakan culture is something that's unique to Southeast Asia, where trade routes in Asia in the last centuries resulted in intermarriages between overseas merchants and local women. Yeah, so that's a bit about the house. Now, because of government and university directives, the COVID closure for us started at the beginning of February, which required us to quickly make up for the programs that we usually run at the house that are now suspended. And so we had to take them online. So next slide, please. Thank you. So our main social media platforms are Instagram and Facebook. We also have a website. So these platforms are usually used to send out information for programs, exhibitions, or behind the scenes kind of maintenance or restoration works at the house. So we do have a quite targeted audience of heritage enthusiasts, students, public, and those who are Peranakan themselves. So interaction is therefore not new per se on our social media, but it was not so much a focus at that point. But after COVID began, and I guess the closure began, we had to move our programs online, and our focus then changed to forming connections with the audience, having a two-way channel of conversation, especially because COVID resulted in a lot of isolation among the community. Everyone was at home. This would be a good time to reach out and help everyone feel connected to each other, to their neighborhood, and perhaps their culture as well. So the second point over here is that we also wanted to organize and document our internal digital museum media and archives, such as photographs from exhibitions, from past events, as well as our artifacts. So social media can then be used as a good vehicle to display all of those, displaying the archives and then having people engage with them online. So we'll go then to the next slide to help put those ideas into context. I'm not sure if you can see this because I had to squeeze all of this into one slide, but you can kind of get the gist. On the far left, one regular program we had to suspend due to safe distancing concerns was actually the weekday heritage tours. So this program was originally one of the main ways that people could visit and access the house. But when we couldn't do that, we started to bring all these artifacts that we would usually cover in tours online through our social media posts. So we did this on Facebook and Instagram. We then also brought about a longer and more cohesive take on the house through our Instagram story series, our virtual house and gallery tours, which is the second image over here. So this attracted quite, before, I have to go back to the previous slide. Sorry. Thank you. Back to the visuals, please. Yeah, here. Thank you. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Danielle. I missed the. Which one do you want? Is it this slide?
The one before this.
Oh,
the one with all the screenshots.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the virtual gallery tours were quite popular because a lot of people looked at them, and it provided the opportunity for international visitors who couldn't come and also access our social medias originally to take a look at the house, which originally really was not that much of the case on our social media. And then with these two social media campaigns, we also got to document and display some of our old archive media. So for the tour, we had tours on past exhibitions. So we had a lot of images that we hadn't really shown to the public from past exhibitions about the gallery, the different artworks within it, the exhibits. And we also even did a feature on the restoration process of this conserved house all the way back in 2006. Yeah, so the two pictures on the right are then related to featuring and engaging the members within our community. So we have a group of docents who guide tours at the house. As we're not able to, have them in the house right now to guide, we decided to also feature them on our social media so that other people can learn more about what a docent does and what they like about the house and what they miss about the house. So we also posted frequently in a docent exclusive Facebook group, where we post interesting heritage news that we've seen or come across on Facebook, or messages on solidarity, about safe distancing and other current events. Okay, so we can move to the next slide now. Yeah, so this brings us to the challenges of digital engagement specific to the Baba House, which I wanted to focus on the communities that we are trying to keep and maintain. So outside of public engagement, it was important to us to keep this internal community vibrant and going. And it's something that people might overlook just because usually on a normal basis, it's natural and necessary to have everyone there. So now that everyone's working from home as well, or not able to guide, we hosted a watch party of a Peranakan play on Zoom, for example, for docents and staff, so that everyone can catch up with one another as well as engage with something related to the heritage. We also tried to get our community to participate and contribute to social media activities and features. Yeah, so the second challenge was to integrate our online and offline needs of the Baba House in digital outreach. So some of the digital activities that I mentioned earlier were some of the ways that we tried to do this. I think what we found was that introducing this element of interactivity and consistency of our posts was very important, because we tried to respond to the public messages and reactions as much as possible. So it's not just that, we are churning out content with no knowledge of whether people are receiving it or if they're responding to it. And even if they do, then we also wanted to reach out to them as well. So that is kind of like a learning point. And lastly, as usual, as always, we have to check our statistics and our insights on our digital initiatives, on our Facebook posts, on our Instagram posts, to check if all of these are working for us, if people are receiving them well, and if not, then how can we tweak them? Yeah, so this is my really short presentation on what we've been doing at the Baba House. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Danielle. This was very good. It was supposed to be a short presentation. So I think Marta, we will just moving over to the next presentation, right? And then we have the discussion after the two presentations. So we come to our second speaker, Florian Knote, who is the director of the University Museum and Art Gallery of the University of Hong Kong. So please, Florian, your short presentation.
Thank you, Roland. Thanks, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. I work for the oldest continuously run museum in Hong Kong that is quite well known in the community, not so well known to the online community. And so we started about 2 years ago to think more about online initiatives. We employed an officer who exclusively works on social media and online initiatives about 1.5 years ago. But all that said, although we started thinking a lot about it, it was really with COVID that we had more time. The museum was physically closed for 3.5 months and had the opportunity, and in some ways, I guess, also the obligation to do more. So we do quite a bit on social media now. We introduce the collections and temporary exhibitions, and also part of the museum education that we did physically in the galleries and in our workshop gallery before. We discuss themes like female artists, artist journeys, and new acquisitions online now. These are all object related. We present visual material on objects, also on galleries as a whole, 360-degree photography and so on, and information about the historic building we are housed in. So a little bit like with Baba House at NUS. Next slide, please. We do videos that are conceived as 2.5 minute tours of special exhibitions. The idea for that came with us installing everything for a new opening in mid-February that didn't happen, that only happened in mid-May. And so we took the opportunity to present the exhibitions online because we could not really open them to the public until we reopened the museum on 16th of May. We also do the same for permanent collections now. And despite the fact that the museum is open again, we have the momentum. We learned how to do it. We are eager to do a lot more, so we continue. And we do digital exhibitions, most of which accompany physical exhibitions and are sort of a side branch, sometimes an abbreviated version, sometimes an opportunity to show specific aspects of the exhibition with more depth. And we are working on more digitally born exhibitions that are independent from the physical display in the galleries. Next slide, please. We also are beginning to live stream a little bit more, and we do more with Zoom classes. This obviously started with the teaching the university did since mid-February. Personally, I didn't know what Zoom was until mid-February. Now we're using it all the time, not just to speak with colleagues, but very much obviously to teach students. We also open that up to stream to the community, to do cultural events, artist discussions, symposia in this way. And also to go back to the social media. We use the social media to introduce all of these events, and also with regards to museum education, you see some of our worksheets here. We distribute sort of homework by social media so that our online audience can follow our exhibition schedule, can work through the exhibitions with us at home, and find, yet now that we are open again, the same also mirrored at the museum. We do all of this in-house with little technical support and no extra budget. I guess that sounds familiar to all of you. And so I wanted to thank my colleagues, Elena Chung, Ray Hong, Jay Wong, and Chris Madison for all their work on this with me. We think of all this together and develop more and more as we go along. Our main challenge is the different online communities we have, or we hope to win, and specifically the more traditional communities. So our museum friends and supporters are often not so savvy when it comes to online anything. And so we are still sort of training constituents in how to follow us, how to see our videos, get access to the most ordinary channels like YouTube, of course, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on. And we see a real divide there in our community. The other maybe bigger challenge even is for us to win more followers. We are quite okay now with the technology to produce all of these online initiatives, but we lack a good instrument or maybe strategy to win more followers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Florian. Very nice, quick presentation as well. So we should now go over to the discussion. And I've already seen there is some in the chat going on, but it's mainly also very much about presenting different kind of initiatives. We already heard some of the problems. Also the kind of divide in the communities, which we can engage with that and not. I mean, we gain some communities. We seem to gain some internationalism, right? Because obviously now it doesn't really matter anymore whether you sit in Hong Kong. I mean, there's still a time change, but elsewise it doesn't really matter anymore where you are. But with kind of the local communities, it might be more difficult. I would also like to put this out to you, but also to everybody else. Where do you see the opportunities, but also the limits of digital engagement, right? Like we probably see some very clear limits also what we can do and what we cannot do. So I don't know, Marta, do you have any?
I was thinking that maybe we can hear some feedback on the challenges, because if these are lessons learned, it would be very interesting to hear, for example, from the Philippines or from other countries, say South Africa, for example, some of the representative, well, we're not representing anyone, but still, you can give us an impression that we ourselves have absolutely no idea how you handle the going digital problem. So perhaps someone could address were you prepared? Did you use the university infrastructure? Did you have to provide training for your staff? I mean, were you already online, or was it zero? Perhaps starting even with Penny, because Penny was going to start, remember, she was going to, Penny from Greece.
Okay, Penny, yeah, you want to say? You have to unmute yourself, yes.
Yes. I wanted to say that I was impressed by what you said about pedagogy. And what we are doing is that we are trying to transform educational programs that we do in the museum to do them through internet, using a new pedagogy for that. And we still want to interact with people. So we will try to put on this in one kind of platform, WebEx or whatever. I think WebEx because Greek schools use WebEx, and we will interact. So we have started designing this kind of programs. We are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But as you know, my museum is very poor. we're not very much supported by the university. So we don't even have a site. And we are trying to develop a site using a number of students that want to help, students that are doing internship in the museum. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Penny. There's also Michelle Quick, who has written something in the chat. Michelle, do you want to come on?
Oh, hi. I think I was just thinking about Martha's question about the university IT infrastructure. So we have a website, but it's also controlled by the university to some extent. So how fast we can upgrade their website or reorganize their website to a from home structure is quite difficult for us. So what we do is to use what we can control, which is our social media that we have. We can easily change the content faster or release content faster for that. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I can also say something about India. At least what we are discussing in the university is really that we are using Zoom right now, right? And in India, there's actually a lot of concerns about Zoom and the use of Zoom, and they actually do want to ban Zoom. So that's really some of the discussion that's going on. So I don't know, we're using these kind of different platforms even to interact with ourselves here, but obviously there's a lot of these platforms, but there's also a lot of concerns about these platforms.
Perhaps the bans are because of, when we initially discussed the platforms in UMAC, how to broadcast this and so on, we some of our members raised some issues about Zoom being banned in some countries. Yes. Actually, they are banned in some countries, and so it's for the privacy, for the security issues, right? It's not so much. What is the reason, Roland?
I would say it's complex. I don't want to go into the whole discussion. It's partly the Indian government. I would say part of it is for political reasons, but partly it is also about privacy concerns raised. And obviously now there are more and more people using this also for a lot of sensitive stuff, right? Like for PhD committees meetings, department committees meetings. And I would also say all this privacy and security issues are not very well dealt with in India, right? I mean, it's very chaotic. It's a very kind of patchwork kind of system anyway. So there are a lot of privacy concerns, but obviously our concerns will be if the university says, look, we're gonna ban Zoom, right? So. Yeah. And I'm depending on the or even the government says in India we're gonna ban Zoom, right? Like obviously then we have.
Yeah, sure. The problem with going digital, at least from my perspective, and also from the voices the echoes I've been having, as UMAC chair, I receive a lot of emails. It's mostly because of in 72 hours you had to go digital. Okay, so that was also part of the problem. And of course you had the university infrastructure, but it's not easy to connect. And then you had stuff at home, and then you had to make stuff, all the IT, equipment and so on available for staff at home to be, there was a time at least of some adaptation, which was not at all easy. But I do believe that university museums and collections are better prepared because of the university infrastructure, because we already have kind of a head start, compared to other museums, So it would be interesting to hear from those university museums and collections that already were very good in social network. And we have one here. Where is Anna? Anna, tell us about the Museum of the English Rural Life, which were very, very active already on Twitter and Instagram and so on. So did you know what was the difference? What did you have to innovate and so on because of COVID?
It's a really good point, Marta. The Museum of English Rural Life, fondly known as the Merle, is part of Reading University, and we have a fantastic and international particularly Twitter following of about 150,000 followers. So quite incredible for anyone on Twitter, let alone a university museum. So we were really conscious at the beginning of lockdown that we wanted to maintain that contact. We wanted to maintain that sort of social media, that sort of light-hearted posts, tweets that our digital editor does. But we knew that it was really important for us to be able to continue connecting with our local communities. So that's the difference and the decision that we made sort of immediately, that although the work in terms of connecting with that global audience and those Twitter followers could and should and has continued, that the difference that we could perhaps make in sort of digital engagement in connecting with people online was with the people that were around us, were in our neighborhood, but we're no longer able to see, to work with. So for example, we have a really regular, what we call Friday fledgling slot, which is for under fives and their carers to come to the museum, to come and do outdoor learning in our garden. That's really regular, that's really popular. It can be sometimes attended by up to 40 children and plus their carers. And we really wanted to make sure that we were still talking to groups like our Friday fledglings. So we've sort of really quickly set up a digital engagement program that mirrored our public program as it is when we're able to be in the museum, and didn't really stray from that. We knew that there was some fantastic content that was going on, you know, not only across the UK, but obviously with yourselves across the world. But what we wanted to do, as well as that sort of continuing the Twitter conversations, was to be able to really link and connect very closely to our local users, and that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah. So you raised the, sorry, Roland, let me just, I'm not, it's going to be short because I'm going to link what Anna said with what Akiko just posted in the chat, which is this difficulty in connecting. Okay, you already had online, say, a digital audience, Anna. So you already, you know, you had built that. And the difficulty for you was to engage with your normal, physical, real audience.
Absolutely.
Right?
That was the challenge. And we knew that they were the most important people to connect with, because a lot of them would be vulnerable, a lot of them would be shielding. And obviously we wanted to be able to welcome them back to the museum as soon as we can. So we didn't want to just shut down and exclude them, you know, in terms of connection as well, as much as we had to exclude them physically.
Yeah, and Akiko raised a very interesting point about this reconnecting with former audiences, which is that she mentions that a significant proportion of their visitors were above 70 in her museum in Japan, in Tokyo. And so how could they, you know, they're not very familiar with IT stuff. So it's that kind of divide. You mentioned the divide because of inequality. People don't have access to broadband internet and so on, but there's also this divide about age and, you know, familiarity with the tools. Of course, somebody 20-year-old, 30-year-old, he or she was born with the internet, you know, they know everything. They know much more than us.
But something to add to that then, Marta, which is we've also got a really supportive and strong volunteer body at the Merle, and you know, they're supported by each other as well as our volunteer manager and team, and they were able to work with each other and those older members of the volunteers to make sure that they were still talking with each other, during lockdown, well, we couldn't welcome them into the museum, and where it was needed to be able to show them or contact relatives that could show them how to use the technology so that we could still be speaking with them, they could still be talking to each other. So shout out for volunteers yet again in lockdown, that they've been
Right.
vital in keeping us connected with our local people as well.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we should move to some of the areas. I mean, we have the Philippines here, and we have also South Africa here. How do you view these? So I think from South Africa we had the Leilani.
Yes.
Yeah. I can imagine that it's a bit different in South Africa, right? Like if you say, oh, we can engage with all the communities, like at least in India, it's kind of like on the table, yes, specifically if you're on the university or the university that I have, it's kind of, internet is relatively good, but whatever, I already see when I try to communicate with my students who are now out in the villages, that they really don't have very good connections, or also don't have really the devices to be able to connect online, right? And then again, you see a very strong divide, not only between the age, but also between like the different poorer or richer communities.
Yes, I think the university museums are quite isolated within the university, so we don't really connect with the community so much. We've tried to do online puzzles from our collections, and we've started our Instagram page again and our Facebook page again, which was a bit neglected. So we are happy that that's up and running, and we are also a very small team, so it's quite difficult from less than 10 people to run everything, and we also don't have all the financials to do so. Yeah.
Who was here from the Philippines? Marta, who's here from the Philippines?
Here, Marianne.
Marianne, oh yeah, okay, Marianne, can you say something about the Philippines and the situation there?
So I can only say on behalf of our museum, because I do not know the experiences of other museums in the country. But right now, it's one of the problems. The internet connection in the country is not really as at par with other countries. But what we do in the museum is, fortunately, we got international funds for digitization of our collections. So when we will be starting to digitize our collections, and hopefully it will be made available to our partners, our collaborators, and other natural history enthusiasts in not only in the Philippines but also in other parts of the world. Our website is very much active and it is updated. Our curators can be contacted through their email addresses, which is posted in our website. We are also very active in the social media, posting the activities of our curators on different biological taxa. So that's what we are currently doing in the Philippines. Of course, we are also collaborating with our other natural history museums in the country and our partners around the world.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we should go to some other kind of institutions. I think Umberto, he is from a botanical garden, right? So how do you do this with the botanical garden, right? Like, how do you do digital engagement, and what's also the limits of digital engagement, obviously?
Well, we are a botanic garden, but also part of a university museum system. And when I say we, sometimes I mean the Botanic Garden and sometimes I mean the University Museum Network. We were very active on social, mainly Facebook, but also Instagram and Twitter. And during the closure, we created our YouTube channel with different sections, face to face with the people working at the museum. How to build a volcano, how to grow a plant, so something like this. And we are very happy for the answer of our audience, of our visitors. I think that we learned to communicate better.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What about, we have Anna Katarina from Saudi Arabia. You want to say something?
Before you give let me just add another important aspect that was mentioned by Joanna from Poland, yeah, which is the idea that the meaningfulness of going digital. Okay, so it's difficult to go digital in a meaningful way. It's a bit like what you were saying at the beginning about the learning in a digital environment is different from learning in a real environment. And so she mentions the difficulty of not reducing content to sharing only. And I think that's an important point that we could add to our conversation here. So back to Anna Katarina, sorry.
Yeah, Anna Katarina, do you want to say something?
Yeah, so our museum is very peculiar. We are already digital. We are a technology-based museum. We don't have a collection. So the museum was custom made. Everything was custom made for that space and to tell a story. And our exhibition is touch screens. Everything is touch screens. So our problem now is how do we receive people again and to go click, 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 and how do we go with all the cleaning after we get the visitors. We don't have an online presence because we are in Saudi Arabia and it's quite difficult to control. It's very restrictive in terms of social media, and we don't want to get in trouble with anyone. So we are not active at all in any platform.
Oh yeah, that's yes, that's understandable, but also very, very important aspect which we had not raised, right? Maybe we could go to Michelle Yenoho, who has also said something about languages. And obviously, I think in several countries, you're also trying to engage with audiences in several languages. Michelle, do you want to say something about this? You had something in the chat?
Yeah, I mean, like I said in one of the previous sessions, we just launched last fall, so we don't have a very deep archive or the digital engagement strategy was really something that we were hoping to attack in the next 2 years, not immediately upon launching. But yeah, I mean, in China, you have to be aware, especially if you're running a truly bilingual or global and local program, to be available on multiple platforms because of the Chinese firewall. So Instagram, Facebook, these kinds of more ubiquitous social media platforms are not readily accessible by Chinese audiences. So you're sort of always mirroring both in Chinese and on some kind of equivalent platform like WeChat or Weibo, which sort of increases the amount of work that you do. And then you're always doing this, again, both in English and Mandarin. And yeah, we have a very small team. So we're just trying to figure out, how to, if there's a way to integrate, or if there's always going to be these sort of two separate spheres for interaction with our audiences, whether it's an English speaking audience or a Mandarin speaking audience. So it's still a problem that we haven't quite solved or figured out.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I mean, I know also like in India, there's always the kind of the difference between languages, which is also usually a socio-economic divide, whether you have like English-speaking audience or you have like vernacular languages. But then in India, obviously, you have many vernacular languages. I think there is, Michelle has also posted something about the question how to sustain conversations digitally across talks and films. You want to say something, Michelle?
Just that we are thinking about it and we are trying to
Your voice is breaking, I think.
So if anyone has done anything successfully, we'd love to hear about that. I think sustain the conversations across all 4 of them, because when you do Zoom, you are talking into a void. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting point, Michelle. Interesting point.
I think we are really in the learning right now, right? Like about the pedagogy, I mean, also like kind of teaching in general, we are in the learning. We don't even know how effective our classes, for example, are, right? Like, and I guess that extends to the museum world as well, where you're trying to teach with objects, right? Like you're trying to do this online, and we don't really know how effective these things are. And we probably even know only in the future, right? Like of students who have taken now even like several semesters of their teaching in online, right? Like what does that really do to communication? What does that do to teaching learning?
Next week, our 4th webinar next week will be really focused on trying to understand the challenges and issues of teaching and learning through university museums in the COVID period. So we really would like to invite you to come again, you know, and share, you know, the difficulties you had if you were teaching with objects. You know, how do you teach with objects, you know, on yeah, one thing is seeing exhibitions, you know, contemplative exhibitions, but how do you really teach with objects? In a way, it's similar to the science center problem. You know, you have to touch, you have to handle. And so it will be fun and interesting to hear experiences from all over the world about this issue. So it's going to be next week, same time.
Yeah. I probably, before we're closing down, obviously we are coming to the end of this webinar. I would like to come back to the last point I have raised. Obviously, we all talk about that with COVID-19, the world will never be the same as it used to be before, right? So we are talking a lot about even if we are coming out of the kind of digital world or the kind of digital engagement, and we are opening our museums again, that this kind of experience will have changed things in the museum world, right? Are there any thoughts, anybody having any thoughts about that? Also the kind of dangers of this, right? Like, obviously, if we are going to be pushed more and more towards digital engagement, how might that be compromising on other kinds of engagement, right? Like, are we going to stay with this kind of digital world, right? I think there's also a question from Florian. Different social media for different voices. I don't know whether, Florian, whether you want to come up and say something on this.
Yes, Roland, thank you. We decided quite early on that we wanted to use different social media, not just for different languages, meaning English, Cantonese, and Mandarin, but also to pitch slightly differently so that some channels are more serious. We decided to use Facebook for that, and others are even more casual and more sort of fun.
Yes.
And then to what you just said, Roland, I think we try to just do more online, stream more online, and mirror more online what we do in the galleries. I don't see us doing less at the museum physically.
Yes.
Always a priority.
Yes.
Right, Roland. Thank you all, but first, Roland, any words to wrap up?
No, I mean, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this great engagement and this great conversations to get different kind of views on these issues from different countries. I think some of our concerns are similar, but then we also see that obviously there are very different kind of concerns, right? Like if you think about specifically like the availability of media platforms, right? Like there are different kind of issues being raised. I mean, some, as I said, in my case in India, about more general about digital divide, but also then in countries where there is more a limit on kind of social media engagement. So I think this has been really great, and I think also I very much like your comment on leading over to the next webinar, where we're going to be talking about teaching, where we're going to continue. Obviously, also going to be talking about how do we do, for example, object teaching in a digital world. Obviously, we've always argued that we need the real contact with objects, right? Like, so how do you do that through digital engagement? And where I hope we also can come back to the question of pedagogy.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to thank specifically our two speakers, Danielle and Florian, and everybody for a great round of discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Roland, for your moderation. And thank you all for participating orally or in our chat, because the chat is absolutely rich and great. And it's going to be saved and provided online in our website with the video. I'm also grateful to the University of Lisbon for letting us use the Zoom platform. And next Friday, as I said, it's going to be about online teaching and students at the same times, moderated by Alistair Kwan from New Zealand and Kirsten Vicens from Germany. So if you want to participate, again, you do the same thing you did today. For those who are watching on YouTube, go to UMAC website, umac.icom.museum, and all the information is there. And you can also follow us on YouTube. So we are a very new channel, like we have less than 10 days. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and switch on the notifications. Thank you so much, and see you next week.